So hello and welcome to a joint Comic Haven Antiverse podcast.
Simulcast.
Simulcast. Yes, there you go.
Except it's not live, so
No, it's not. Different new meaning to simulcast, I guess.
availability.
So we are here because a certain movie, I don't know if you've heard of it. It has come out recently.
Jaws?
It is called, yes, it's called Jaws. It's kind of, I think it's gonna be a big deal. Not sure yet. No, okay, so we're obviously here to talk about Avengers Endgame, because we both already seen it. I shouldn't say already, because probably this is already the future, so we've both seen it.
I've seen it twice.
Chris has seen it twice.
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Chris saw it twice before I saw it once. Yeah. So, yeah. I kind of went blank there.
Well, I mean, where do you even start with this movie?
Whew. It is. We aren't doing this in a format, which is part of the reason we're doing it in both podcasts, because exactly. Where do you even start? There is so much movie to this movie, and man, there's so much we could talk about.
Also, as it usually goes, at least on the Antiverse, and usually when you and I do Comic Caves, we don't care about spoiling things for people, but we do always warn people that we are going to be talking freely about the movie here. So if you haven't seen it and you care not to be spoiled, then I guess stop listening, but continue listening after you've seen the movie.
Absolutely. Yeah, there will be spoilers for sure.
Not intentionally or with malice, but we're just, like I said, we'll just be talking freely.
Yeah. It's going to be hard to have a reasonable discussion about this movie without just like spoilers left and right. Really.
That's why I don't ever watch like spoiler-free reviews of movies, because like, what's even the point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, basically, all those people end up saying is like, "Oh yeah, you should go see it." Like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it'd be like giving a review based off of the trailer. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It's like, and
like
even the trailers are usually too much spoilers for me. I usually try to avoid like past the first trailer of any movie I actually want to see. So,
yeah. I was gonna say something, but I forgot what it was.
Oh well.
That's probably gonna happen a lot. Well, I guess we can start at the beginning. I remember what I was going to say, because you said about the trailers giving away spoilers. The last trailer for this movie I don't know if you really consider it a spoiler, but like I was really enjoying how I think there were 3 like full trailers for this movie.
Right.
And I was kind of enjoying how none of like the little mini teasers or the big trailers were like showing Thanos or like having him talk at all. But then like he was all over like the last trailer, which I mean, like I said, he was already in the last movie. So, I mean, it's not really a spoiler, but it's like, I don't know. I kind of wish I hadn't seen that, because like I didn't really want to know like what settings he was going to be in or anything he was going to say in this movie. Like I wanted it all to kind of be a surprise. So. But oh well.
Yeah, that's actually you. I remember you told me that he was in the 3rd trailer, so I specifically avoided that one because I didn't want any of like his participation in the movie to be like ruined for me.
And it was a lot.
So, yeah, it was a lot. Even though I'm gonna go ahead and say this right now, he was dead for most of it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. He dies right at the beginning. I mean, straight up dies, not just gets snapped out of existence. They cut his head off, so...
Yeah.
That was pretty surprising. And then it kind of acts like the movie's over. Like, it just kind of cuts to black.
Yeah. It's like, all right, that's it, bye.
Like, I thought that'd be kind of funny if they, like, said the movie was going to be 3 hours and it was really, like, 5 minutes. Like,
it
what?
was like not even an episode.
And then it would be like their response would be like, "What? All you people really cared about is that Captain Marvel didn't kill Thanos." Well, she didn't. Movie's over. Bye.
Movie's over. Oh God.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
I guess we can kind of like go through the story, I guess, as we can recall it, and just so, I guess following the events of Infinity War, I guess Nebula and Tony are they were stuck together on Titan, so now they're that's the Guardians ship, right? That they're flying back in?
I think
as
so.
Best as you recall.
Yeah, because that was because the Guardians showed up to the planet, where they met Thanos in their ship. So that would be like the only ship around that they could have gotten into.
So here's kind of a logistical question. Like in the comics, the Titan that Thanos is from is the Titan of Saturn, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's actually the moon Titan of Saturn.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I can't imagine that it would have been that far from Earth. I mean, as far as we're talking about the infinite expanse of space here, it's relatively kind of close. Well, I guess that's how Captain Marvel found them so easily. But
maybe
I can't. But like, I wouldn't think that the Guardians were close to our solar system. I mean, if this Titan is in our solar system, if they were that close before they got there, so like, why would they run out of fuel so quickly when the ship left Titan? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the movies doesn't seem to be having him be Thanos of Titan. He's just like Thanos, and he's from this other planet somewhere out there in the universe, and maybe we don't know where or something.
I mean, it's still called Titan.
It's
just not. Titan? I don't think it's the Titan, the Moon Titan.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem to be. I mean, it had its own moons, as I recall, in Infinity War.
Oh, right. He threw a moon at Iron Man.
Yes, he literally threw a moon at Iron Man, so yeah.
That's a good point.
It had to be something different. It was a full planet of its own, it seemed to be.
Right. So, yeah, I guess, like, the end credits scene of Captain Marvel, because I was kind of confused for a minute. I'm like, wait, did that even happen? Because, like, but then, like, I thought about it for a couple minutes. I'm like, oh, this is after that end credit scene. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the end credit scene of Captain Marvel takes place before this movie. So, like, she's already been to Earth now. But I wasn't thinking that while watching the movie the first time. I was like, wait, she just, like, randomly finds them and then goes to Earth? I was like, man, did that end credit scene in Captain Marvel even happen?
Yeah.
But then you kind of piece it together pretty easily, I guess.
Yeah. So Captain Marvel was like, in her movie, she was called to Earth from the beacon, the beeper in Infinity War, in the end credit scene of Infinity War, and then we get her end credit scene. We see the other end of that. She gets the call and she comes to Earth. And I assumed when I saw Captain Marvel that scene was just going to be in Endgame.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Because there was something where they did that for the first Avengers, I think, where they had like one of the end credits thing was basically just like a trailer for Avengers, and then like they had some like a bit that was actually in the movie.
Yeah, they've done it before where like an end credit scene is just in the next movie. Like I forget what movie the end credits scene was in, but it was like just a scene from Civil War.
Yes. Right.
After Sam and Steve have like captured Bucky or whatever. And that ended up just being in Civil War.
Yeah, so that's what I was expecting from the Captain Marvel end credit scene.
Well, apparently Brie Larson said she never really knew if that was being filmed for Endgame or for Captain Marvel, so they might have been originally planning to put it in Endgame and just kind of cut it for time, maybe.
Yeah, maybe decided it was better doing like the weird reveal.
Yeah, that was really weird. Like you mean like where she like appears in space?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked really weird.
It did.
Like it just looked very obviously not real. I mean, we're talking about someone flying around in space, but I mean, come on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of her flying in both movies looked very awkward, I feel like.
I think she looks way cooler, like with the mask on.
Yeah.
And did she even have it on in Endgame? I don't remember now. Like maybe when she first arrives at the end, maybe I don't remember.
I don't recall seeing it because she didn't she got rid of the mohawk she got rid of the long hair that allowed her to do a mohawk when she had the mask up. So I guess they didn't feel like there was a point. And that's a shame. I love the mohawk look.
Yeah.
I talked about that in my Captain Marvel video breakdown. So I love the mohawk look, but
I don't care really about it in the comics, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't hate it or anything, but I just thought it looked really awesome in the movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just figured she had to wear that to be in space or to fight or something, and I don't think she even has it on in Endgame at all. But oh well.
Yeah. Oh well. So yeah, she shows up, rescues Iron Man, and Nebula, brings him to Earth, and they decide to go kill Thanos.
If you didn't see Captain Marvel, you probably will be really confused what's going on right at the start of the movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was gonna say because Iron Man falls asleep and he's sitting in the seat and then he's woken by this bright light. And it's this really, really slow and long reveal of him being slowly woken up by this bright light. So was she just hovering outside the window that whole time, just waiting for him to wake up and notice her?
What a creep.
You probably could have just started, going towards home or something. But...
Yeah, well, no, she had to, to make it dramatic. It doesn't matter that he's running out of oxygen or anything. She's just taking her time.
Yeah, it's fine.
Although she probably brought them oxygen, or I don't even know if Nebula needs oxygen, but
it didn't seem like it because she was walking around after he passed out from.
Oh yeah, she was fine. She's
deprivation. So.
Okay. Anyway, what you were going into the next part of the story, I believe, previously.
Yeah, well, I stopped because I feel like I'm missing something. Well, I mean, I know Iron Man is really angry at Captain America because of the whole Civil War thing still.
Get over it, God.
And which I'd forgotten about again. But there was a lot of that actually in this movie. I think where they kept bringing up things, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that was a thing. When I guess this is getting really ahead of it, but when Scarlet Witch appears and she's like, "You took everything from me," and he was like, "I don't even know who you are," I laughed so hard because I was like, "What did he take from you?" I don't even remember.
Well, you're on the same page with Thanos then.
Yeah. Then I remembered they killed Vision in the first one, which I'd totally forgotten about, honestly. So whoops.
They had a relationship for 2 whole movies, man.
Sort of.
Or 1.5. I don't remember. Were they already a couple when Civil War started? Because I don't remember how they became a couple. I don't. But then again, I've only seen Age of Ultron. I think I've maybe seen it twice. Did they start dating in that movie? I don't remember that.
No. I mean, the Civil War started kind of. Suggesting that there was kind of something going on between them, but they didn't actually have anything yet.
He was just there, guarding her or something, right?
Yeah, basically. And then she, crushed him into the earth a bunch.
So it's Stockholm Syndrome.
Escape. But then now she's like, "Oh, I love you," or whatever, and it's okay. So it happened between Civil War and Infinity War.
So they went from kind of hinting at it to full on they're a couple and sleeping together.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
But I guess apparently the movies are happening in real time, which I didn't know until Endgame.
Well, not anymore because now it's 5 years from now.
Yeah, now it's 5 years from now. So.
Which I don't think is going to be as big of a deal because I've seen some people oh my God, it's 2023 in the Marvel universe. It's yeah, but by the time the date matters again, I think it'll probably be 2023 at least anyway. So
yeah, pretty much.
it'll just all the movies before that will have all just kind of taken place at the same time or really close together.
Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like they're just like giving themselves space to like take a little bit more time making the next few movies while they decide what to make movies of.
Yeah, I still think Spider-Man's like the only thing like totally 100% absolutely confirmed as coming out. But
right,
I mean, there's other things supposedly in development, but nothing's like officially announced yet. Besides Spider-Man.
Yeah. And they announced that they brought James Gunn back for Guardians 3, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's even happening, really.
Yeah, I mean, they could always, change things.
Yeah.
I mean, they've canceled movies and announced movies out of nowhere, like only, a few months before they came out before. So, I mean, Spider-Man only came out, like a year after they got the rights to Spider-Man, so.
Yeah, they just, like, immediately did that.
Right. So, you never know. Anyway,
yeah.
So, Endgame.
Yeah. So, like, I don't even remember, I think they're just kind of, like, arguing with each other, and then, like, Tony kind of, like, passes out, and then Captain Marvel's just kind of like, I'm gonna go kill Thanos. And they're like, you're crazy, you can't do that. And then they're like, oh no, actually we can. We know where he is apparently. So they just like go get him.
Yeah, they get the signature, I guess, from the Infinity Gauntlet. Because they knew what the signature was from when he used it the first time, and apparently he used it again. So they found him that way.
Yeah. So they realize what planet he's on, so they all go and find him, and they pop in on him while he's cooking dinner, and just kind of grab him and try to get the gauntlet from him, and then they like grab his arm, and Thor just shows up and just cuts his freaking hand off.
Why was he wearing the gauntlet still?
Yeah, that's a great question. So
like,
so we
is
could
it, like,
have another crazy
melted onto
reveal.
his hand, I guess.
Maybe it is. Because like his skin was all like burnt up and stuff, so like I guess it's melted onto his hand. Because we learn at this point when they grab the gauntlet that there's no stones left, and he says he used the gauntlet to destroy the stones, which I guess that, yeah, like as you're saying, I guess that kind of melted the gauntlet onto his hand.
I guess.
So
works for me.
Yeah. So Thor just freaking straight up chops his head off.
Yeah.
Right there. And then they're like, oh well, 5 years into the future.
Yeah. That was pretty crazy. Like I didn't expect that for sure.
Yeah, that was really not where I expected this to go. I really was expecting like some kind of big crazy battle. Like if you've ever read the Infinity Gauntlet comic, like after Thanos gets the glove and kills half the universe, that's when the battles happen, and there's all kinds of crazy battles for like 3 issues of people fighting Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, and then and so that's where like the main story was. So that's what I figured this movie was going to be, but apparently not.
Nope, it was Quantum Leap. Not really.
Kind of. I did enjoy the reference to Quantum Leap that they directly made.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we'll get to that in just a second. So they're 5 years in the future. They're all just kind of trying to keep everything together. Hawkeye's entire family died at the beginning.
Yeah.
I guess it's something we kind of skipped over because it's Hawkeye. Like, who cares?
Yeah. I'm going to be making fun of like the people in my theater a lot during this, just because I thought a lot of the reactions were funny. Like, when that happened, when it's revealed that they all disappeared, everyone's like, oh my God. Like, did you really not see that about to happen? Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I was like, okay. I was like, who's going to die here? I was like, which of the kids? Is the wife going to die? And then they were just like, they're just all
I
dead.
knew they were all going to be gone. I mean...
So I almost expected the daughter to be fine, and then like because I guess his daughter in the comics becomes like the second Hawkeye or the third Hawkeye or something, doesn't she?
The Young Avengers Hawkeye.
Yeah, the Young Avengers Hawkeye. So I was kind of expecting her to like be fine, and then like they join up and it'd go kick butt or something. But nope, just dead. So yeah, but that in the 5 years in the future, he's all pissed off about it, and he's become basically Ronin, I guess.
Yeah.
Which was he Ronin in the comics? I kind of thought that was someone else.
I believe so. But I don't think they were ever going to call him that in the movie because they already had a Ronin and they didn't want to confuse people.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Ronin being based, that was the New Avengers arc with Brian Michael Bendis writing, I guess. That was when he kind of first showed up. But so that's kind of what the Hawkeye becomes in the future, just this crazy, like, angry guy with a sword, and he's just like kind of killing all the bad guys still alive in the world. Captain America's just running like a support group.
Yeah.
And Black Widow is just kind of like basically S.H.I.E.L.D. now, and she's kind of coordinating efforts with all the like super people left in the universe.
It's funny, like, it doesn't seem like... So it's been 5 years, and, like, there hasn't been any, like, supervillains or anything major happening since, they killed Thanos or whatever. So, like, but now that they've brought everybody back, now all the bad stuff's going to start happening again.
Yeah. So maybe Thanos had a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe he just got lucky enough that 50% it just included all the craziest people, the most dangerous people. I don't know.
Well, anyway.
But yeah, so if you saw the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, you know that kind of all of the Ant-Man side characters died. All the support group, I guess, Pym and his wife and daughter, all died, while Ant-Man was in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
So he pops out, and he says it's been
because
5
a rat
hours.
runs across the control board.
Yeah, a rat runs across the control board because all the van that had the little gateway thing was like in a storage.
Yeah.
And so like a rat runs across the control board, activates
Wasn't
it.
it like on the roof of a building at the end of?
Yes, it was on the roof of a building at the end of it. So I don't know how they got that down, or who bothered when half of the universe was dead,
or like how they got it up there in the first place. Well, I guess they could have shrunk it, and
I figured they probably shrunk it to get it
that
up
makes
there in
sense.
the first place. But how did they get it down?
Yeah, would have had to get a crane or something.
Yeah. And like, I mean, when he's walking around this desolate world, like, there's just trash bags just lined up everywhere because no one's bothering to pick up the trash.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. Like, yeah, there's garbage everywhere and everything's all overgrown. Like, there's probably still like trash men and landscapers in the world.
Yeah. But I mean, they seem to be suggesting that there weren't because no one's bothering to do it or something. But like, someone bothered to get the van off the top of a building, of a skyscraper somewhere, put it into storage,
and yeah, and but the memorial for the vanished was very well maintained.
Yes, that's true. There was a memorial to all the people who had vanished, and it was very well maintained. And Scott found his own name on it.
I like that. It was kind of like a Twilight Zone-y type of moment.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of cool.
And he then goes to the Avengers, saying that he's been thinking about it for a long time. Which I mean, I guess 5 hours is a long time. I'm kind of confused on the timeline there.
Well, for him thinking about something, that's probably a long time.
I guess that's a good point. But yeah, so he says that because it was only 5 hours for him, but 5 years for everyone else, that he can, that maybe they could use the quantum realm to like go back in time to before Thanos and set everything right. And I don't quite Oh, I guess they go to Iron Man for help, and he says no because he has a daughter now with Pepper. Yeah, Pepper Potts.
Yeah.
He says no, and then they go to Hulk, who doesn't really know how to do it, but is now like Banner and Hulk in the same mind and body, which looked. I hate Mark Ruffalo. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. I really hate Mark Ruffalo.
He has a weird face.
So I don't particularly like how it looked, but I liked the idea because at that point, at the Infinity Gauntlet point in the comics, that had happened to the Hulk. So I kind of like them doing that, almost like a nod to the actual comics there. So yeah. What happened next? So he tries to help them, though he doesn't know how to do it, and then Iron Man just kind of accidentally solves the equation or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I mean, I guess I understood it, but I was kind of like, I mean, it's obviously like, okay, they need this movie to move along now, I guess.
Yeah. So then he decides he's gonna go ahead and show up and help everyone. And what they decide to do is, as Scott Lang calls it, a time heist.
Yep.
Where because they point out you can't just go back into the past and kill Thanos, because that won't affect their timeline. The timeline they're in would still happen. They would just create a separate timeline that didn't have Thanos in it. And so that'd be nice for that timeline, but that wouldn't fix anything for them.
Right.
That's my understanding. You just say that's accurate?
Yeah, that's how I understood it, but there's lots of things in the movies that kind of contradict that. So
yes. Yeah.
Whatever.
But we can get to that.
I think it's like I said, I think it's like everything else in these movies. It's just kind of whatever they want to happen will just happen. I kind of chalk it up to something similar where, you know, everyone's able to just breathe on every planet.
Right.
It's kind of like that.
Right.
Where there's no rules because they would just get in the way.
Yeah. And so I mean, yeah, they make rules, but then they also break those same rules, so it doesn't really matter. So they what they decide to do instead is to go back in time, and because they've all run across one of the Infinity Stones at some point, so they go back in time to grab one of those Infinity Stones from their own timeline and then bring it back into the present, and then use that to just bring everybody back that Thanos killed. So that's what most of the movie actually is them going back into the past and doing this.
So we basically have summed up the first act already, except for I think we left out the part. So they're also, you know, wrangling up the whole team. So we touched on Hawkeye and Hulk and Ant-Man, but we didn't touch on Thor.
Oh my god, Thor, yes. Oh my god, they go to get Thor to get him in on this. And man, Thor has... Now, I think actually... Did we have another episode where we talked about the movies? Because I remember you saying at some point, maybe this wasn't in one of our podcasts, but I feel like I remember you saying at one point that Thor had kind of lost the most out of everybody leading up to Infinity War. Was that you?
I can kind of see that, but I don't remember saying that.
Okay. I mean, because, if you think about it, yeah, he's been losing a lot. He lost, you know, his mom, his dad, and, his freaking planet. Half of his civilization before Infinity War even started.
Yeah.
So, he is already, down in just the
See, I was wondering that, so... I guess Thanos killed half of them the old-fashioned way, but then did 50% of them disappear again?
That would really suck.
I mean, it's 50% of everybody, so I assume maybe a couple of them disappeared, but I guess it's not 50% of every group of people. It's just 50% of everyone.
Right.
So it's not like every group or race of people is going to lose the exact same, proportion.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I guess maybe some of them.
Probably. Although, when they showed, they did world tally of the entire of Earth. And they're like, it seems to be exactly half of our population. So, like, I don't know if if that's so, like they did that for every planet or something. Or...
He's like, they were like, oh yeah, world governments are trying to put together a census, but then they were like, yeah, he wiped out 50% of all life. Like, well, I thought you said they were trying to do a census. How do you know?
Yeah. I was just gonna give it to him.
Whatever.
They're just extrapolating, I think. So yeah.
Here's something I want to know. Like, is it 50% of all life or just like sentient life? Because like, you know, if all animals, I mean, I guess animals are sentient, right? Okay,
yeah.
if you get rid of 50% of people, like intelligent life forms, and you also get rid of 50% of like plant life and 50% of animals, then you kind of have the same problem. Like,
yeah,
you have the same proportion of you know, food to people.
That's a really good point. In the comic, I know they did say that it seemed to affect animals as well. But
they kind of hinted at that in Endgame when he looks out the window and, you know, all those birds are around that tree or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's just all animal life, like whether it be human or some kind of space alien or.
So like, Thanos wanted everybody to be vegan, also.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, he was eating some weird fruit, some kumquat looking thing.
It was like a squash pineapple eggplant thing.
So I guess he's you know, very PETA friendly.
Yeah.
That Thanos.
Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, they go and see Thor, and Thor is an absolute mess. He's just like a complete drunk. He is super overweight.
I don't know about super overweight.
Maybe not super overweight. He kind of looks like me. In that movie.
I was gonna say, it's honestly, like he's probably still thinner than I am. So,
so he's got a bear belly. I guess I should say that instead of overweight. He's got a definite bear belly. Iron Man calls him what is it? Does he call him the dude?
Lebowski.
He calls him Lebowski, which is very inaccurate. He's dressed very much like Lebowski. He's got very much a Big Lebowski look about him.
Yeah.
The dude from that movie. So, yeah, that's a very. I think they thought of it and then they just went with that look, because that's basically what he looks like, except more out of shape.
Yeah.
But apparently, I mean, still able to kick some butt. So I guess when you're a Norse god, you can still kick butt regardless.
Yeah. There you go.
So yeah, is there anyone else on the team? I guess Nebula's on the team because she was with Iron Man. She's kind of betrayed Thanos at this point.
Yeah, I guess she's
Rocket's there.
She is on the team, but I mean she's already there, so I mean they didn't have to go round her up.
Yeah. So.
Is there anyone else they had to get? I don't think so. I think that's everybody.
Yeah, I think that's everybody. That was just kind of... I was trying to think of who all goes on the time heist. It's like Hulk, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Nebula, Rocket Raccoon...
Rhodey. Captain America, Iron Man, Ant-Man.
Captain America and Iron Man. Ant-Man.
I guess everybody's Ant-Man now.
Yeah, pretty much. Because, they have to shrink down in order to go into the quantum realm and then come out in anotof time period.
And they're all wearing Ant-Man suits.
Yeah. So, yeah. So basically then most of the rest of the movie is just like, hey, do you remember this other MCU movie?
Yeah. Well, that's the rest of the movie. It's like the second act of the movie.
Yeah. I guess the second act out of like 3 acts is pretty much, hey, do you remember this MCU movie? So they go into... They realize that if they go into New York during Avengers 1, that they have 3 of the Infinity Stones in New York at the same time, which is Doctor Strange's Eye of Agamotto, and I probably said that wrong, and someone's probably gonna get after me. The Tesseract that was being used during the battle, and what was the other one that was in New York?
Mind Stone and the Scepter.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there was one in the Scepter as well? Man.
So this is what I don't understand. So I'm assuming at the beginning of Avengers 1, this doesn't really have anything to do with Endgame, just kind of with the overall kind of story overall of the MCU. At the beginning of Avengers 1, Loki gets the scepter from Thanos, right? So, like, Thanos gives him the Mind Stone, I'm assuming. So Thanos had the Mind Stone, but he never, like, mentions that he used to have the Mind Stone. He's just kind of like, oh, I found an Infinity Stone over here. And then, like, they never mention that he used to have one. He's like,
right.
I kind of would have appreciated, like, it's some kind of throwaway line, like, oh, I got to start all over again or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Because I only barely was cognizant of the fact that the scepter was even supposed to have an Infinity Stone in it, which I didn't realize. And then I was only kind of like, when they got it in the movie, I was like, oh, that has an Infinity Stone? I didn't even know that.
Well, yeah, because that's how they make Vision.
Oh, so that's where that comes from. See, I need to rewatch these movies probably.
Yeah, it's just confusing because the Tesseract and the Scepter are both blue. But when they crack open the thing on the Scepter, the stone is yellow.
Right. Okay.
So, whatever.
That makes some sense.
I mean, I don't blame you for not being overly familiar with Age of Ultron, so...
Yeah, I only watched it once in theaters, and mostly I just remember thinking that's a lot of robot punching. So, because it was a lot of robot punching.
Yeah.
Let's see, what's the other one? Nebula and who goes with Nebula?
Rhodey.
Hawkeye? Rhodey, yes, that's right. Nebula and Rhodey go to Guardians 1, and to get the Power Stone before Quill can get it.
I really like this part.
You like that part?
Well, not so much the part where it's just replaying like the opening of Guardians 1, but like the part where like Rhodey knocks him out is pretty great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I like where they're like show him from the distance where he's like singing the song and there's like no music to go with it.
That was great.
Show what it actually looks like. That was pretty good. And then they just knock him out so that they can just go grab the stone. And Rhodey's all like freaked out about like, he's like, oh, this is gonna be all like Temple of Doom, you know, and there's gonna be all this stuff going on, and then, like Nebula just goes and grabs it.
Yeah. Burns her freaking hand off.
Yeah. She burns it down to her little Terminator shell.
I guess she doesn't care.
Black Widow and Hawkeye go to whatever the Death Planet thing is to get the Soul Stone. Vormir, yeah. So basically just a repeat of Infinity War when Thanos goes to it. And
why didn't Nebula tell them about the whole you have to kill somebody?
Yeah, I didn't really get that.
She's just like, oh, it's on Vormir, but I'm not going to tell you what happens.
Yeah, I mean, because she knows... Well, she knows Gamora died on Vormir, but maybe she doesn't know why, that it was necessary in order to get the Soul Gem. I didn't really understand that. I was kind of confused myself.
Yeah, well, maybe she didn't know for sure, but I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, she did tell them that that's where Thanos killed Gamora, but that's all she said. So I was kind of waiting for her to be like, and by the way, you're gonna have to sacrifice someone, but that never happened.
Yeah.
But I was kind of laughing at that part. I don't know if you found that funny, but
they were like fighting each other?
Because they were like fighting each other for the chance to die.
Yeah. Oh, that was
they were
hilarious.
Like, no, I'm jumping off the cliff. No, I'm jumping off the cliff.
It was hilarious. Like, I know it was probably supposed to be like dramatic and all, and like something, but I thought it was funny.
The music and everything, it made it seem like it was supposed to be pretty serious and dramatic, but like me and the guy next to me were just like laughing through the whole thing. Cause,
I didn't like that they basically played the same music they played from the same scene in Infinity War. Like,
yeah.
it was really, I don't know, because it's like, I mean, I get you're trying to do a callback type thing, but that death in Infinity War, I feel, was a lot more serious than this was. Even though I like Black Widow a lot more than Gamora, but still, just the moment was a lot more serious in Infinity War, and here it was just kind of like, oh, I gotta die, I guess.
Yeah.
Nah, whatever.
Yeah. And I would have preferred they killed Hawkeye, because I didn't give a crap about Hawkeye.
Well, obviously, I think everybody would have, but Black Widow doesn't have a family, so.
Yeah, that's true.
And like Hawkeye's whole point was he wanted to get his family back, so.
Yeah, good for him, I guess. Yeah, so they do. It ends up Black Widow manages to get the advantage there and kills herself, throws herself off the cliff, and dies. So they get the Soul Stone, and then that just leaves
the Ether.
Oh, the Ether, yes. Which is Thor 2, which is surprisingly the Thor movie they decided to go back to, but it is the one that had the Ether in it. So,
yep.
And I guess they couldn't get Natalie Portman back, even though they got just about everybody else back.
Yeah, that was definitely just recycled or unused footage of her.
Yeah. So
like that I thought even
stand-ins.
That was also a funny part to me, like the part where it shows her like laying on the bed or couch or whatever, and she gets up, and then it does a really awkward camera cut to obviously not Natalie Portman walking out of the room and like Rocket like following her. Like I thought that was hilarious for some reason, just because it looked so bad.
Yeah, it did look pretty bad. It was like, oh wow, okay. But I did like they got Thor's mom back for this, and I did like him getting to talk to his mom again. Thought that was a pretty nice moment, actually.
And Thor gets Mjolnir back.
Yes, he calls his hammer back, and he's like, "I'm still worthy," and then he takes it back with him to the present.
Well,
so
of course you are. I mean, you know you're still worthy because
Mjolnir.
you can swing Stormbreaker.
Yeah. Well, Stormbreaker doesn't have Odin's spell on it.
Oh, that's true. I guess that's how Thanos was able to catch it and try to use it.
Yeah. So
anybody can pick up Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
It's just probably really heavy, I guess.
Probably. So yeah, and then I guess so basically Natalie Portman's character, Jane was infected by the Aether, so they just kind of sucked it out of her, and that's how they got that Soul Stone.
How did they do that?
They had some kind of device that was like a syringe thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying logistically, I mean, how did Rocket do that?
Yeah, we never get to see, really. We just know that it was...
Maybe we don't want to know.
Thing. Yeah, we might not want to. It might have been something bad. But so everyone's pretty successful except for the original group I mentioned, the Iron Man, Cap, and Ant-Man, who go into the first Avengers movie.
In their defense, they had 3 to get.
Yeah, they had to get 3. And they started out doing pretty good. Hulk went back there too and spoke to the great one, the wise one,
ancient one,
the ancient one. Thank you. Knew it was the something one. Yeah, speaks to he's expecting Doctor Strange, but obviously, as we know, Doctor Strange wasn't Doctor Strange yet.
Yeah, and she says, "Oh, he's performing surgery right over there." Like, really? While all this is going on?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That because I was thinking that I was like, "This is okay." Is he just like in a hospital, or is he like? Because I actually he was in a hospital. I think she specifically said he's like over in this building performing surgery right now. Yeah. It's like this is kind of a bad time to be doing surgery.
Well, maybe it was like battlefield type surgery. Like,
yeah, I guess it could have been.
What do you call those things in war, in battles? That like a triage? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, like a triage thing.
Yeah, maybe he was doing emergency surgery stuff.
Yeah, it could be. I guess we don't know, but it did make me think. Like, wait a minute. So he goes to speak to her to get that gem, and Captain America and Ant-Man try to work together to, after the battle for New York is over, kind of sneak away the Tesseract and the Scepter while everyone's busy. Which I actually kind of like that, because like the first movie like kind of ended, and then like end credits, and then like they're eating shawarma, and like we don't like there wasn't really like any kind of wind down or conclusion to the events. So we kind of get to see the wind down here,
right?
Which was kind of nice.
And it makes me kind of wonder how they got it past Director Pierce in the first place. Like if that's still what happened, because he was like trying to grab it away from Tony. But I wonder how they were able to convince, S.H.I.E.L.D. to let Thor take it back to Asgard, and Loki, for that matter.
Yeah.
Although I liked seeing how Loki got that weird mask thing on his face. That was funny.
Yeah, when they put the weird mask on his face, the Bane, the not Bane mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I love, and so like they realize that people are trying to steal this stuff. Captain America gets the scepter, and then Ant-Man and Iron Man try to get the Tesseract by giving the original Iron Man from Avengers 1 a heart attack. So like they realize that someone's taken the cube, and so they go looking for who took it, and Captain America ends up having to fight Captain America.
Yeah, but before that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, with the callback to the elevator scene of Winter Soldier. Like, I thought that was pretty great.
I guess I don't remember.
Like, the part where he gets in the elevator and like it was all those same characters. Well, except I don't think Agent Sitwell was there, but.
Okay, yeah, you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, and then he beats them all up in the elevator.
Right. Yeah, he gets into the elevator.
I just thought it was funny because they were all
agents.
the same characters standing in all the same spots, and even that guy like even grabbed his gun the exact same way. Like, why are you doing that? Yeah.
I thought that was funny too. And then instead of like getting into a fight, he was just like, Hell Hydra.
Yeah. And they're like, oh my god.
They're like, Caps Hydra, what the hell?
Yeah.
That was pretty good. That was a pretty good moment.
But yeah, then he fights himself.
And then he ends up fighting himself, and that was pretty good too. Because I love he like the old timeline one gets up and he's like, I could do this all day, and the other one's like, God, I know. Made me laugh. It's like the callback to him saying that like 3 times in his own movies.
I don't think the uniform they had either Cap wearing looked as lame as the actual one from Avengers 1.
Yeah.
It didn't look as like brightly colored.
Yeah, they definitely went ahead and muted those colors a bit.
Yeah,
like
he didn't have his pansy red booties.
Yeah, those boots were awful in those first couple of movies with him. Because there were different boots, I think, in between the first Avenger and Avengers, but they were both bad.
Yeah. Well, in the first Avenger, he basically just has like an army uniform on.
Yeah.
But
except for
you're
when
talking
he's
about
dressed
the
as
part
Captain
where he's in
America.
like his dumb like stage show costume.
In his yeah.
Well, anyway, so something goes awry, and Loki's able to get the cube, and he portals himself away. But now they're like, crap, what are we gonna do now? We screwed up. We don't know where this stone is at any other point in time. But then, is it Tony who thinks he knows? I forget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Tony realizes he knows a point where he knows a time and place where the Tesseract would be that would also have more Pym particles, because they're running on a limit of Pym particles.
He said he was like pretty sure the stone was there.
Yeah. So their goal with this, they have to do a second jump into the past, and their goal is to go where there's the Tesseract in Pym particles, because they only have enough particles to bring them back to the future. Not enough for anything beyond that. So they have to go somewhere where they can get both things. And so that's apparently the 1970s.
Yeah.
Or 1970, I think.
Yeah, 1970 to the, I think it's the base where they created Captain America, right? and where they go down,
yeah.
him and Black Widow go like down in the elevator in Winter Soldier to Dr. Zola's like AI lair or whatever.
Yes, which they make a bit of a reference to when someone shows up looking for Zola in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, it was Howard, right? Was Howard the one looking?
Yeah,
for
it was
Dr.
Howard
Zola?
who shows up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tony's the one down there, though he obviously doesn't know him. There's a lot going on in this scene. I gotta say, there's a lot going on in this scene.
Yeah.
Because this is the Stan Lee cameo. He shows up right here, de-aged.
Yeah.
CGI de-aged, and as a hippie.
Yeah.
And that's apparently going to be his final cameo in a movie. Which is kind of sad.
It's pretty fitting that it was this movie, but I don't know if the cameo itself was that fitting to be his last one.
Yeah, it was kind of a disappointing cameo, I feel. Captain Marvel cameo way better.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And another cameo is the guy who played Jarvis in the Agent Carter TV show. He shows up as Jarvis in this movie, the only person so far to start in a TV show and be in one of the actual MCU movies.
Yeah.
So go him. I liked him in that show, so it was cool seeing him. I got really excited.
Yeah.
So he's there. Iron Man has a big talk with his dad.
It's a good moment.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good moment.
It's kind of the same as Thor and his mom, so.
Yeah. I think they actually even reference something from Iron Man 2, which is definitely my least favorite MCU movie. But it was still like it was a touching moment. It was kind of a nice moment. And Cap also sees Peggy on the base. So Peggy's there. What's her name? I can't remember her name. Her actress's name.
Oh, Haley Atwell.
Yes, Haley Atwell shows up for a very brief moment. And Cap sees her. So, a lot goes on in this scene. And even more de-aged Hank Pym is in this scene.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that was Michael Douglas. I think he was just doing the voice. And
it might have been.
And they just like CG'd young Michael Douglas's face onto a younger, thinner actor, I think.
It could have been, because it looked really weird. Because I remember you
they had his hair like covering his face. Like, I think they realized it didn't look that good, so they're like, well, let's put hair in his face.
Yeah. So that was really weird.
I like seeing the old school Ant-Man helmet though on the desk. That was kind of funny.
Oh, I don't even remember that now, but I think I remember noticing it. But I don't remember what it looked like.
I think it was just like silverish, metallic looking.
Right.
With like
kinda
the 60s like antennas like sticking up off of it.
Right. Awesome. So a lot happened in this scene apparently. But so they managed to get the Tesseract and the Pym particles, and then they get out of there, Back to the Future, and they've got
convenient.
Huh?
I said how convenient.
Yeah, how convenient. And so they get Back to the Future. Everyone's been successful. The only other snag was that when Nebula went into Guardians of the Galaxy 1 timeline, her brain, since it's like a computer, it like networked with the other Nebula from that time. So they realized they were there and what they were trying to do. Thanos does. So they like replace her.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that networking, image memory thing didn't make any sense, and I'm like, I wouldn't say it didn't make sense. It was just extremely, convenient for the plot. I mean, pretty much everything in the movie was, but I think they explained it just fine. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I understood it. I thought it was kind of weird, but I mean, I thought it worked. I didn't think it was any more unbelievable than just about anything else.
Yeah, exactly. But I've just heard so many people nitpick this one thing. I'm like, really? Like, that's like one of the few things they bother explaining, and you're gonna nitpick at that? Okay.
Yeah, And I mean, this is coming from a guy who hates just about any use of computers in movies and TV shows because it's always such BS.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it.
I'm surprised they didn't use the word mainframe.
Yeah, the mainframe in her brain or something.
Insane in the mainframe?
Insane in the mainframe, exactly. I don't. Nothing in this movie was 90s, so I'm not sure that's an appropriate show.
Yeah, that would have been better for Captain Marvel, probably.
Yeah, there we go. So they switched the nebulas to an evil nebula, without any of the good guys knowing. So while they go off to like put the Infinity Gauntlet together and decide who's going to use it, she calls in Thanos, apparently. And somehow brings him forward in time, even though he doesn't have Pym particles.
She should have so the current nebula, the one that went back in time, should have only had one more Pym particle, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming the past evil nebula used it to go to the future. So it's not like she could have left some Pym particles behind for Thanos. So, I don't know, whatever.
You know what? I guess I just thought of this now because you and I, people listening don't know this, but you and I just discussed this for a long time earlier. But I just thought of this now. So when she goes back into the present day of the movie, she could have been in the past for any amount of time. So maybe they took the Pym particles from that future nebula and they duplicated them for the crew. Because they had all the time that they could possibly want to do
You're
that.
right. Before she even used the one that was with Nebula.
Yeah. So
that probably
there's
makes
a thought.
sense.
I don't know. It's kind of a loophole, but there are kind of a lot of
you're right because
with.
When Rhodey goes back to the future, the good Nebula is still left behind because her computer thing's freaking out. But when they come back, they both arrive back in the the present at the same time. So their times leaving the past were already different, but they still arrived in the future at the same time. So you're right. I don't think the time that she stayed behind in 2014 made a difference. So they could have taken all the time in the world to like copy the Pym particle.
Yeah, and I mean, in a sufficiently advanced civilization like Thanos apparently has, they probably could do that. So there we go. There's an explanation right there.
You know what? I like it.
So they don't explain it in the movie at all, but they don't bother to. But that one works.
Like even even having her bring the Pym particle to Thanos, because you know how she goes to Thanos. Oh wait, does she? I think she does now that I think about it. Because remember, she goes into his throne room, and she hands him something, and he looks at it, and then she goes
like the controller. Yeah.
Oh, it's just the controller. It's not the Pym particle tube thing.
I mean, the Pym particles might be in the controller. I don't know how it's supposed to work.
Okay. Well, maybe they thought it was obvious, but it wasn't.
Yeah. So
I guess that's probably what they wanted people to assume. So there you go.
There we go. So so she brings Thanos into the present while everyone else is working the Infinity Gauntlet. Hulk ends up being the one who puts it on, which I think honestly they picked Hulk so that the gauntlet could increase, because it started out like the size of like Iron Man's hand, and then it had to like increase in size to go onto Hulk's hand. And I feel like they kind of did that so it'd be the appropriate size when they like Thanos picks it up later.
Well, it's still like adjusts when he puts it on. So
does it?
Yeah, because I mean, like he can't. It's like a really tight. It's like a form-fitting glove. It's not like the Infinity Gauntlet where it's just like really big. So it still has to kind of like open up to let him put his hand all the way through it.
I see. Okay, well,
at least
never mind what I said then. But yeah, I mean, it still would adjust for whoever was wearing it, so it's not really important. But yeah, so Hulk manages to snap his fingers and seems to bring everyone back, but they're not entirely sure because they get attacked right away by Thanos, and it like blows up the Avengers
compound.
Man, that was
a great shot. That really was. Like when they're looking up through, because they just open those shutters and they're looking up through the ceiling skylights or whatever, and then it just when it clears, you just see this missile coming at them.
Yeah, It was good. It was a good reveal. It was like, oh shit.
Joss Whedon probably wouldn't have done that.
No, that's too clever for him, I think. So yeah, so they're kind of screwed at first, because Thanos comes just raining down on them. Like Hulk and Rocket get trapped in like a sub basement, and water's flooding in, and
it reminded me of the Mandarin bombing Tony's house in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, actually, that is exactly what I thought of when I saw it. But and that might have even been intentional, considering the number of references to other movies that are in this movie.
Yeah.
So then they get into a big fight with Thanos. I don't even remember why.
No, it's not really a big fight. He's just like I think he just thinks they're all dead, and he just like chills and tells Nebula to go get go find the stones.
Yeah, I love that. He just like he shows up and he just sits down.
Yeah.
He just like takes a seat and is just like, you go get the stones, Nebula, and
I really like that he was wearing his armor for like the entire time he was in the movie.
Yeah.
Because he never wore it in Infinity War. I mean, he wore it right at the beginning, but then he took it off and he never put it back on.
Yeah, but he's wearing it for like his entire time in this film.
Yeah.
It's cool looking armor, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what happens is while he's sitting there, the other Avengers, like Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, they kind of show up, and they see him sitting there, and they just decide to go and fight him, try to beat him, I guess.
Thor totally like gives away their position for he summons Mjolnir and Stormbreaker and like causes this big lightning storm. It's like, well, he knows you're there now.
And so they go fight him, and they're not particularly successful, but I remember thinking at this point that it was kind of funny to me that they killed Black Widow specifically, and that Nebula was now evil. So like at this point, because everyone was so concerned leading into this movie that Captain Marvel was being created just so she could show up and kick Thanos' butt, which spoiler alert, doesn't happen. But like it was funny to me at this point that we're getting into this first actual fight with Thanos, and literally there are no women there. Like their one teammate is like dead, and then the other one is switched with an evil version, and the rest, they're all dudes. So it's just dudes fighting Thanos, and I kind of thought that was funny because it felt to me like it was just an intentional response to that negativity that had preceded Captain Marvel and everything.
I didn't really think about it, but that is kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, ladies eventually show up. This fight lasts for a really long time. There's just so much fighting going on. Gamora and Nebula, the good Nebula, like get together past Gamora, because 2014 Gamora and Nebula like end up getting together, and they go and kill the evil Nebula. Hawkeye has the gauntlet. I don't quite remember. He just had it, so he's been trying to like get away from things trying to kill him, and basically the rest of the movie becomes a big scramble for the gauntlet. While they fight Thanos. Thanos brings in like his entire army, and they like all come down to the planet, and they're all standing there.
Well,
but then am I missing something?
Yeah, the whole Cap with Mjolnir thing.
Oh yeah, during the fight.
I forget what happens to Iron Man. I guess he just gets beaten up or something. But Thanos is like, he has Thor pinned down, right, and he's about to like cut his head off with Stormbreaker.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he gets hit in the back with Mjolnir, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Mjolnir.
And it's all like, I just assumed Thor had summoned it. I mean,
I did too.
I don't know why he wouldn't.
Right.
But then it shows Cap catching it. So I don't know. You said it was dumb, but I thought it was awesome. It's just because there's been so much, or it feels like there's been so much tease for that, like over or at least in a few movies. And he's just so pure that he's worthy of the power of Thor.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think that, I didn't remember the build up. Apparently you did. I did not. So that was one thing, but it was just one of those moments when he when the hammer went back to him and he grabbed it and he was just standing there with his shield and his hammer, I was just like, they thought this looked so cool, and I'm sorry, it just doesn't.
Yeah, everybody in my theater was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, I mean, I like it, but chill out, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, I was fine with. I don't dislike it. I just like it was one of those things where I could tell they thought this was going to be so cool.
Did everybody in your movies react like that?
Actually, no. There wasn't really any sound. There wasn't a lot of people responding to things in my.
Really, man. My first showing was like, man, people were insane. But I mean, that's what happens, I guess, when you go to day zero of a movie release.
Yeah,
so.
It's a bit different audience there. It's just one of those things that when I can tell that the creators think this is just so cool, that always bugs me to a point where I just kind of don't like it. But I mean, I was totally fine with this. I didn't think it was bad or anything. I was just like, that's not as cool as you think it is, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you'd say that, but I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I mean, you are kind of right.
Yeah. So yeah, so
and
that
then,
happened.
Then I guess he just gives up fighting Thor and starts fighting Cap, and he's like, beating the shit out of Cap's shield with this big knife double sword weapon thing he has.
Yeah,
and he breaks his shield, and it's like his shield's like down to scraps, and then he like launches Cap like really far. I thought he like knocked him down like right next to him the first time I saw it. But then, when the army shows up, he's like really far away from him. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But anyway, so Cap gets up and he, tightens the strap on his shield, and he's about to take on this whole army like all by himself, I guess. But then, all the people that got killed in Infinity War all come back. So.
Yeah, so all the heroes show up with the help of Doctor Strange portals.
This was another thing everybody was like freaking out in my theater. And I'm like, did you really not think these people were coming back? Like every character that got revealed, like, whoa, this massive applause. It's like you knew they were coming back, right?
Seriously,
it's kind of like the same thing where back in the day, you used to talk about like when you went to see one of the Pirates movies, and like you said, the whole theater like erupted when Johnny Depp got revealed.
Yeah,
you're like, did you really think he wasn't in this movie or something?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I remember that. That was the second Pirates movie when he comes out of the coffin, in the water. Yeah, I still remember that because I was just so like, I was like, really?
That's a weird thing to applaud at, but
yeah.
And it was like, wasn't it right at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, it was in the first few minutes.
Whatever.
But yeah, so all the heroes show up. Everyone who died: Spider-Man, Black Panther, War Machine. Wait, no, War Machine's already there, isn't he? Falcon.
Yeah. All the Guardians.
A lot of the people from Wakanda that we saw die or didn't see die. Just tons of the monks from Doctor Strange's order.
Yeah.
I should probably know what that order name is, but I don't.
They have a name?
I assume so.
I just thought they were monks from the Sanctum.
Yeah, they're sure.
I guess they have a name. I don't know, some kind of order of something.
Yeah, the Order of Agamotto, maybe. I don't know. If you know, feel free to write in and scold us for our lack of nerd knowledge here.
Yeah. Well, odds are it's probably not even the same as it is in the comics anyway.
Yeah, if there even is one in the comics.
Right.
So just basically just a ton of the good guys show up, and then there's a big big battle between Thanos' army and all the superheroes and stuff. And I actually enjoyed.
You forgot the Avengers assemble.
Oh yes, they kick it off by Cap like calling in Mjolnir and being like Avengers, and then he shouts Avengers. He's like Avengers, and then he's like assemble.
Yeah, like I don't think they heard. I wanted someone to be like, "What?"
Yeah, but everyone runs, so I guess they all heard him. I don't know. Maybe Mjolnir works as like a radio,
a megaphone,
kind of broadcasted to everyone. But yeah, so that kicks off the fight, and the they try to bring the gauntlet to the van, to Ant-Man's van. I don't quite remember why.
Well, because they have to put all the stones back where they got them from.
Oh, okay. So that's what their goal is. They're just going to go back into the past, put the stones back.
Yeah.
And Thanos wants to stop them to get the gauntlet.
It's because Hawkeye has the gauntlet, and he's like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? And they're like, with their invisible communication headsets that they all have.
Yes.
They're like, oh, just get the stones as far away from here as possible. And then Hulk is like, no, you have to put them back where they came from.
That's actually right before this whole thing. I remember because Captain America had like his left side of his mask like all ripped up, and you could see his ear. And then he gets like a radio call from Falcon, I think, and then I kind of expected him to like reach up and touch his left ear that we could blatantly see didn't have a radio receiver in it. But then he actually did touch the right ear, which we couldn't really see. So. I just thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, still invisible communications equipment. We're just gonna go with it though.
Yeah, whatever.
So the fight's kind of going bad for Thanos, so he like just calls in his ship to like just rain
Scarlet
missiles
Witch
down on everyone.
starts kicking his ass.
Oh yeah, Scarlet Witch. That's that moment I was talking about earlier, where she's like, "You took everything from me."
Yeah, I love that when he's like, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
I was like, man, he really doesn't. That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminded me. I probably shouldn't even say this, but it kind of reminded me of the Street Fighter 2 movie when like Chun-Li gives this big long speech to M. Bison about like how he's destroyed her life, and he's like, yeah, that was your life, but for me that was like a Tuesday. Which I always kind of liked that bit in Street Fighter 2, as bad as that movie is, and it is terrible. But maybe I probably shouldn't even mention that.
Well, it's like it's the same type of thing as in Guardians 1, where Drax goes to kill Ronan, and he's like, "You killed my family," and then he's like, "I don't even remember that. What are you talking about?"
Right. So there you go. There's a better reference.
It's probably been in a lot of movies.
And I'm sure it's something that villains do a lot. But it was just, I don't know, for whatever reason, it was very humorous to me in Endgame. Possibly because, like I said, I didn't remember what he did to her. And I was like, what did he do to you that wasn't undone by the new snap? So it confused me.
Well, they didn't bring Vision back.
But they did not bring Vision back. So
I guess because he died before the snap.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyone who died before the snap did not come back.
I mean, he is just a robot. I mean, they could bring him back whenever, really.
Yeah, that's how I feel, but I don't know. I guess I don't know.
Whatever.
But yeah, so she's kicking Thanos' ass, so he like calls down missiles from his ship to just start raining down on everyone. And that's when Captain Marvel conveniently shows up and just blows his ship to hell.
She really likes blowing up spaceships.
Yeah, it's like her one move, man. She blows up spaceships. So, yeah, she comes in, blows up the spaceship, and she goes down to fight Thanos and kind of gets her butt kicked. She doesn't do a whole lot in the fight against Thanos.
No, she kind of is just trying to get the gauntlet off of him, because at this point he's gotten the gauntlet.
Yeah, at this point he managed to get the gauntlet. I don't quite remember what happened.
It was after the whole girl power thing. They're all trying to get the gauntlet. They're kind of like the last gasp effort to get the gauntlet over to the van, I think.
Right. Yeah. Because Spider-Man had the gauntlet, and then the missiles were going off, and then the missiles stopped, and then all the girls of the Marvel universe came out and were like, "We'll handle this."
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, the first time I saw that, I was like, man, that's really dumb. Because but I would think it's dumb if it were any specific group of characters, because it's like, oh, really, you went around and specifically picked out these characters to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, but then when I saw it again, it was it was really weird. The second time I saw it, it just seemed like nothing. It was 5 seconds long.
Yeah, it was real quick. They just kind of basically scrolled through all the girls.
I liked it a lot more the second time I saw it. I was just kind of, I don't know. I guess because after watching this movie for 6 hours at this point, I was just my brain. I was kind of just turning my brain off. I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, you could look at it as girl power, or you could also look at it as being like, these are the people who aren't important enough to do anything else. So it kind of insulting at the same time.
And plus, they fail anyway. So.
Yeah, and they do fail. So,
but I mean, everyone else failed before them. So
yeah, they do try to get to the van, but Thanos manages to get it, and then Captain Marvel.
Yeah, because he like chucks his weapon thing at her like while she's flying and like knocks her down or whatever.
Yeah,
and then he gets the gauntlet that way. So yeah, then I think after that she's just trying to get the gauntlet off of his hand, and he like headbutts her, and it doesn't do anything.
Yes, I actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah, well, I mean, she is all like powered up at that moment. She's like on fire. So
yeah, well, it's great because like 3 different points now he's like headbutted people to like knock them out in this standoff fight thing. Like twice it was Captain America, I think. And so it was really funny seeing him doing it a 3rd time, and it just like does nothing.
Yeah, and then he like takes the Power Stone out of the gauntlet and just holds it in his hand and like punches her with it, and she goes flying, and you never see her again.
Yeah, that's literally like the end of her in the movie. A whole bunch of characters kind of get on him, trying to like get the gauntlet away from him. The last being Iron Man, who like shows up and like grabs the gauntlet, and then he just like knocks him away, and then he just reaches up and snaps his fingers, but nothing happens, and it's because Iron Man didn't try to take the gauntlet; he took the gems.
Right.
So, and then he reveals this. He has it on his glove, his iron glove, and then he just like snaps his finger, and all of Thanos' army just dusts away. That's how they win.
There you go.
And it kills him.
Yep. Yeah, because the whole movie they're talking about how using the stones kills you. So
yeah,
because Thanos says it almost kills him. I mean, granted, he even used them twice and it didn't kill him yet, but
yeah,
he said it almost kills him. And then Hulk is like, none of you can do it. You'll all die if you do it. I got to do it. So yeah, it ends up killing Iron Man.
Yep. So, basically just a way to say, yeah, we're definitely not doing any more movies with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. Which is fine.
That's all that really is. And so everything's restored. Everything kind of goes back to how it was. And so Cap goes to return the gems. For some reason, goes by himself to return all the gems to their proper place in the timeline. And doesn't come back. And then we learned that he just stayed in the past and like got married to Peggy, and then he shows up as an old man, which kind of separates the idea of if you go into the past and change things, you cause separate timelines.
Yeah, so if that were true, then he shouldn't have been growing old in that timeline.
Yeah. But
I guess he
whatever. It was to have a touching moment at the end where he like passes the torch to Falcon. Why can't I think of his actual name?
Sam?
Sam! God, yes. Yeah, so he gives the shield to Sam, and is like, you're Captain America now. And he reveals that he got married because he has like a wedding ring.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, I'm not going to talk about it. But then they show him like dance in the past dancing with Peggy.
Yeah.
And as I pointed out to you, I'm like 99% sure about this. I'm probably not going to watch Winter Soldier again to confirm it, but I'm pretty sure in Winter Soldier, Peggy was wearing a matching wedding ring. So I think that was supposed to kind of hint at that already, but
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because, like, wouldn't the old Steve have been around when Steve went to go visit her in the hospital or whatever?
If he's in Endgame, then yes, he should have still been alive and around, but I guess he was hiding. So
maybe. She's like, maybe she was like, oh, go leave because the younger you's coming. Don't freak him out.
And my thought is, wouldn't he have been at the funeral?
Right.
And wouldn't have someone been like, where's her husband?
Yeah. Well, we're probably overthinking it.
Yeah. So anyway,
I really when I saw Winter Soldier, because like I didn't remember that, but when you mentioned it to me, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I kind of remember it now. But I think I remember thinking like, oh, they're saying that she moved on from him, and you know he's like sad about it or whatever. But
yeah,
which probably was what they were going for at the time, but maybe they're retconning it now, like, oh, she was married to Steve all along.
Yeah, because I think in Winter Soldier she actually says something like, "Oh, you would have liked him," but I guess you could still make that line kind of work. It's like you would have liked him. He's you.
Well, I don't know. The other you he met, he ended up beating up and stabbing with the scepter. So
yeah,
maybe he doesn't like himself.
Maybe not. So yeah, and that's the whole movie. No end credit scene.
Nope. Did you stick around to listen to the clanging noise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
dumb.
I thought, I was like, wait, is there an end credit scene? Because I didn't ask you, because I didn't want to know, really. I wanted to find out for myself. So, like, there was, like, the clanging noise, like an anvil being struck, you know, like someone was forging something or something.
Yeah, it was just a callback to Iron Man, I think.
Yeah, I suppose. I was kind of confused by what that was supposed to be, but...
I thought the credits were really cool for the movie, or at least the visual credits. Like how it showed little clips, little tidbits of all the movies, and then the part where it was like the main core cast that had like their signature. It was like Star Trek 6.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
There you go. That's the movie. I mean, obviously, I like the movie quite a bit. I think I like Infinity War a little bit more still.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'd say I like Infinity War more, because it was more of the... Infinity War was more of like an interpretation of kind of stuff that happened in the comics being done in the movie universe. And this movie felt like it was basically just like constant fan service to everyone who enjoyed the MCU so far.
Yeah.
I mean, they actually did it very well. I don't want to say that as a complaint, because they did it very well. It works very well. It all comes together very well in this movie. But I was hoping for something that brought in elements of maybe like Infinity Crusade and Infinity War and the Infinity Gauntlet comics and kind of merge that into a movie, and none of that was in there. It was all about the other movies that have happened and bringing it close to them. So,
yeah, I think my bottom line for it is like, as like a wrap up to the 21 movies that came before it, I think it's about as good as it can be. I think they did an excellent job in that respect. However, I think just as a movie, I think it's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much stuff that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, but it doesn't take away from your enjoyment of the movie, really, because, you know, I mean, unless you've never seen any of the other movies, but I don't know why you'd be going to see this one anyway.
Yeah. Seriously, I don't know why this would be your first movie in this series.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't like the ending with like the kind of basically writing some of the characters out of the movie, particularly actors who kind of don't want to be in the movies anymore. Because like I feel like if you had just left them alive and in regular, you know, if you did continue doing movies and then something happened where they were like, oh, I kind of want to come back and do this character again, you could just do it. And we could just assume that they just weren't, that they were off doing other things. Like in Winter Soldier, like none of the other Avengers showed up. We can assume that they were off doing their own things and they couldn't show up.
Yeah, I mean, they were all already kind of old. Like Iron Man was like in his 50s by now, so we could have just assumed he was retired or something, but
yeah,
you know, whatever.
Yeah. So now if something like that happens and they decide they want those characters back for something, they'd have to come up with some really convoluted reason in order to bring them back.
I don't.
You know?
I see. So, I think they wouldn't have done it if they weren't pretty sure that those people were not coming back.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't imagine that they are going to come back. I'm just saying, like, we would have understood if you hadn't done it that way. But I mean, I think they wanted to do this movie as basically like, if this is where you choose to see the end of the MCU, then you can, like, even though we will have more movies, like, you can see this movie as a conclusion to the entire MCU and just go from there and not have to worry about it.
Right.
And so.
But I mean, that said, I mean, if Cap had to have an ending, I mean, I did really like the ending that he got. I mean, just from a, character arc standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that. That was pretty good.
It's pretty fitting. Although I don't know. It's like the first time Cap's ever done anything like, I mean, I wouldn't say selfish, but, for himself.
Yeah.
But maybe he just ran out of PIM particles.
I do wonder, like, all things considered, like, this means that when he went back into whatever time period where he got back with Peggy, that he then lived from whatever that was, the 50s or 60s or whatever, all the way up until 2019, without fighting any crime. He was capable of doing it because he was Captain America. So he had to just, like, turn off that, like, that
well,
hero
see, that's
sense.
the thing. So they could have another Captain America movie. It would just be, like, set in the 70s or 80s or something.
Yeah, I guess he'd be, like, a secret spy trying to not get noticed by anybody or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There we go.
Well, how'd you like the... I think we pretty much touched on it, but I guess... Did you kind of figure they were going to go the time travel route anyway?
I did not. I did not see that coming at all.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, once the movie had started and they skipped 5 years in the future, I was like, oh, they're probably going to do, like, some kind of time travel thing. But going into this, no, I actually just assumed that kind of what the first, like, 10, 15 minutes of the film was, the build-up to going to face Thanos, that was going to basically be the whole movie. And I was really curious how that was supposed to last for 3 hours, but...
yeah, it didn't.
Yeah, no, it didn't, and I actually say I'm kind of glad that it didn't, because that would have been a really long 3 hours.
Yeah.
So it was more kind of like they mashed two movies into one really long movie here.
Right.
So
how did you, I guess, enjoy the use of time travel? Because I personally, I'm kind of a big fan of time travel, but I know it can be, like, awful sometimes. So I guess it all depends on, how it's used. So what did you think of it?
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it. I'd say that portion of the movie was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, even if they'd done it without going into specifically the other movies, if they'd tried to, like, find things that we hadn't seen before, I think I would have enjoyed it about as much. Because, like, I liked the whole idea of that time heist, of them going into other places where these gems existed and stealing them out of the time. I thought that was a clever idea. I enjoyed seeing it.
Yeah. And it makes sense, they have to go to, even if it's not the most convenient time to try to get the stones, it's like they have to go to where they know for sure the stones are. So,
yeah.
Because I kept thinking, like, wow, there was probably a more convenient time to get, like, the ether, for example. But I guess that's the only time where Thor knew where it was for sure.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, he knew that Sif and whoever else was with her took it to the Collector, but maybe he didn't know where that was. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
You'd
or
think
when.
Thor would know where planets are.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually.
Because that might have been easier. Like, hey, Sif, I'm from the future. Give me the ether. I need it.
Yeah. That would make more sense. I guess mainly they did the way they did so he could talk to his mom again, to help kind of give him motivation for being a hero again. But it would have as much made sense, I think, to have gone and try to get it from the Collector, and that would have been a great opportunity for Howard the Duck cameo, and I'm always down for a Howard the Duck cameo, so... personally.
Even when it's voiced by Seth Green?
Was that voiced by Seth Green?
In Guardians 2, yeah.
Ugh. I didn't know that.
I
I didn't pay much attention to
I don't
the
think he
voice.
had a voice in Guardians 1.
He did, in the end credits scene, when, like, the Collector's place is all, like, destroyed. Or was that in Guardians 2?
Well, it had to have been Guardians 1 because the Collector wasn't in Guardians 2, was he?
Oh, maybe he wasn't. Yeah, so I was pretty sure it was that in the end credits scene of Guardians 1 where, like, he's sitting around and his, like, place is all ruined and, like, Howard's just there, like, smoking a cigar and, like, a dog comes up and, like, licks the Collector in the face and Howard's like, ew, that's gross. You let him lick you like that? And that was, like, the whole end credits scene.
I don't remember that. That's weird. Like, I remember he was there. I don't remember him saying anything.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Well, there you go.
Yep.
So, wherever you're listening to this, we appreciate it. It's going to be on, just look for Antiverse Podcast. I mean, if you're already listening to it, you already found it, obviously, but you might be listening to it somewhere else. But it's going to be on Antiverse Podcast on YouTube and where else, Ramsey?
Pretty much anywhere pretty much anywhere podcasts are listened to. I can't stop saying comic for some reason. So the Comic Cave podcast portion of this, which is just, we're doing it both places, but yeah, it'll be available iTunes, Stitcher, podcast.com, wherever you listen to podcasts. It should be available.
Except for YouTube. Oh, I mean, it will be on YouTube. It's just
it'll be on YouTube.
It'll be on the Antiverse Podcast channel on YouTube. So
yes,
there you go. So I guess it is kind of everywhere you would listen to a podcast.
So there we go.
All right. So let's see who's doing the outro. I mean, I guess that was kind of the outro, but
I did the intro. You do the outro.
Yeah. Well, I was already kind of doing it. I'll finish it up, I guess. Well, yeah. Thanks for listening, and you can. Well, I don't know. Do you usually tell people where to find you on Twitter and email and all that at the end of your stuff?
I mean to, but I can never remember what my Twitter and email and everything is.
All right.
So
I'll do mine, and then you can do yours if you remember it. So, all right. So, yeah, Antiverse Pod on Twitter, antiversepodcast.com, antiversepodcast@gmail.com, all that good stuff. If you got any questions or stuff you want us to talk about. Normally we talk about games, but, we talk about anything kind of, nerd-related, comics, movies, etc. So, yeah, there's all the places where you can reach the Antiverse, and you can reach Ramsey at...
you can reach me on Twitter for the Comic Cave, just at Captain Away CC for Comic Cave. And then you can find me on YouTube. Just search Captain Away Comic Cave, and you should find me. And that's where you can go for the Comic Cave. Or CaptainAway.wordpress.com.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying at CaptainAway.wordpress.com. That's kind of my main site.
Okay, there you go.
Everything's there.
Oh, I was just going to say, because you also mentioned YouTube, but I guess I already mentioned that kind of when we were talking about where the show's going to be. But Antiverse Podcast on YouTube is the last thing from the contact information I was providing. So there you go. So yeah, we will see everybody next time in the Comic Cave and in the Antiverse.
Sure.